It's a bad day for Ubisoft.
We were overconfident. You guys do deserve better than this.
Gary McKay has issued a statement on their own blog confirming a downsizing of Bioware as a developer.
They will go after anything. They have so many different like low-hanging fruits they can go after. And it's just, wow. It's wow.
Ubisoft has announced a studio closure. It laid off 185 staff. This was based in the UK studio. They said in a statement to Eurogamer, as part of our ongoing efforts to prioritize projects and reduce costs that ensure long-term stability at Ubisoft, we have announced target restructurings at Ubisoft Dusseldorf, Stockholm, and Reflections, and the permanent closure of the Ubisoft Leamington site. Unfortunately, this should impact 185 employees overall. We're deeply grateful for the contributions and committed to supporting them through this transition.
The latest controversy over AC Shadows. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, which is like, I have to admit, this one caught me off guard. So basically the latest of, what are we up to now? 30 or 40 different individual controversies of this new game. The latest one is apparently you can go to historical Japanese shrines in the game, and there are destructible components of them. So now they're yelling at them because they feel that they are dishonoring Japanese culture by allowing people to go and like destroy parts of these shrines. What's hilarious is these same people would probably be complaining if they made it so you couldn't.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So it's really like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. I don't know. I can't imagine, or there's been so many video games where that exact thing has happened and no one has said a word.
Yeah.
Like games where you can go into churches and destroy various stuff around them, and like
Totally.
that's totally normal. So it is pretty funny to see at this point. They will go after anything. They have so many different like low-hanging fruits they can go after. And it's just wow. It's wow. They're treading a very fine line with the game in general, with just like what they're doing in it. And like it's kind of a similar situation to like Tash and Dragon Age, where it's like you got to do this right or people are going to get real mad. And the problem is that it seems like more and more that they may not be doing it right. Like not the best ways they could have. And like some of the kind of like reasoning they're using for stuff doesn't really jive, and it's not good. So that the whole reason I'm saying this, that controversy that just came up, as it seems kind of ridiculous, kind of feeds into the whole narrative that the game is attacked for right now. Like it's all the same angle.
We'll loop this in with the conversation of studios being closed and people being laid off. Kind of a weird thing out of EA this past week. So the original story was that Mass Effect 5 doesn't require support from the full studio. And so EA moved some staff to other teams. The next day, it was revealed that those people had been laid off to put full focus, after Bioware put full focus on Mass Effect. The Dragon Age developers had been laid off.
That was real low. And the worst part is the original message like made you think, oh, for once EA isn't being horribly shitty.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look, they're making a point to mention they're not being shitty. And funny enough, I put up a tweet right after I read that. And I was like, oh, good for EA, not being, like moving things under the umbrellas. That's good. And then a few hours went by and I looked at the tweet again. Just so many people were like, nope, EA's still a big old pile of shit. Yeah, like, no, they're still terrible. And they fired like all the writing team. Like they didn't move them. They just fired them. It's not looking great. Now, the thing about Mass Effect is as long as BioWare survives, we'll probably get the next Mass Effect because it was being produced in parallel. So there was a Dragon Age team and a Mass Effect team. So a lot of people were like, oh no, they fired all the people working on Mass Effect. No, probably not. Those were the people that were working on Dragon Age. They got moved and fired. There's a couple lists floating around of like the OGs that are still there. And there's a few, but I mean, a lot of the key people are just not here. Mike Gamble is still, piloting the ship, and he's still publicly optimistic. So I'm still cautiously optimistic.
This whole story led to Cromwell, who is from Larian Studios. He's I forget what his title is at Larian.
He's the head honcho of the community initiative, I think. Yeah. Or PR.
He put out a string of tweets that was, kind of condemning what EA has done, and it sparked a lot of conversation. If you're looking to read that.
EA is essentially you have two sides, EA and Larian Studios. Like those are two fundamentally diametrically opposite points of how to run a game dev company.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's people over product kind of thing, and you made the really good point that that's not how it should be. You made the good point that I like, where it's like, generally in a situation like this, if a pirate ship is having problems, they don't fire the crew, they get together and fire the captain.
That was
the captain's
headline.
the one making the decisions. And
Yep.
there's been a lot of back and forth tweets, like some of the No Rest for the Wicked devs replied, and there's been back and forth. And there is the good point, though, that if a company, and this is stuff we're never going to know. So we're never going to know who made these decisions. We're never going to know who was involved. That's just the way of the road. But if a lot of the decisions that led to DAV not selling well were made by BioWare, there's absolutely reasons that EA should be like, yo, we trusted you on doing this. You didn't do it. You didn't make us money, so you're gone. That's business. That sucks. And if you really want to talk about that, then go back to whoever sold BioWare to EA and start talking about that being the downfall. Because honestly, that's what it was. So, I mean, it's not cut and dry, and there's no winners here. And unfortunately, we're not going to have all the information to make the right call on this. It just sucks. It's just a shitty situation.
Here on February 4th, Cohh, how many days away?
2
days. If you've been going and following Cohh on social, he's been very adamant and letting you guys know how far away we are from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And you actually have played the first 3 hours and were able to stream it. So we're going to use that as kind of
and somehow the only person in the world that has.
Yeah.
Which
so
is still mind-blowing to me.
Let's talk about that. How was it? What'd you think? You just finished the Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 run, so you can compare.
Goddamn magical is what it was. Oh, I'm sorry. It was absolutely awesome. It basically, they've taken everything in the first game and touched it, enhanced it, or made it better. They've made mechanics deeper. They've added more. They've changed things based on feedback. They made the animations quicker. They made the selection easier to do. The hitboxes are bigger when selecting things. Combat has been refined. So there's now like a new style of combat when there's multiple people around. They did away with the right-click, Q, click system. Now it's only left-click, right-click. And they made it so there's no more master strikes. So which was kind of a huge issue with the first game, is you got to a point in the first game where the only way to effectively play it, if you wanted to do like the best type of combat, was to wait for the enemy to attack and then quickly hit them a little bit. That's all you could do back and forth. They've redone the combat system from the ground up to no longer do that. So now they actually feel like much more engaging fights. You're blocking with right click, you're riposting with left click. Everything's much zippier and feels better. It looks better. It sounds better. The mechanics are slicker. The UI looks better. Like the stealth mechanics are better. It's just better. In the 3 hours that I played, everything I played was better. They had not only a huge amount more resources, but they had their production lines down. I mean, when KCD started, it was a smaller team that then grew throughout the course of it. So they not only were like dealing with the fact that they were smaller, but they were putting down new production pipelines, forming new teams, remember how we were talking earlier about how, you get those entrenched people at your company that just know how it works. They didn't have those people. They were still building their team for KCD 1. KCD 2, they just hit the ground running, and they knew what they needed to do. They knew how they wanted to do it. The game literally picks up an hour after the first game. So it's really? Oh yeah, dude. So playing KCD 1 is essentially playing like the 60+ hour tutorial for KCD 2. You ride, slight spoilers, but you are riding off somewhere at the end of KCD 1, and you are arriving at KCD 2. So it's very, very cool to like go from that to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like, the biggest issue that I had was that I crashed twice during the 3 hours. I also crashed 5 times during KCD 1, and apparently that almost never happens. So I have since I've taken out my Intel machine that probably had the bugged 14 gen processor, and I'm now using an AMD main machine as my computer. And I have yet to crash on this computer, so I'm very interested to know
if that was
and somebody asked, does it work in like, have you tried KCD? I have not, but I have heard that I looked around a little bit more. There were people that had other Intel 14th gen that were repeating that in their they were crashing too. So makes me wonder if that was why I was crashing and not the game itself. Also, I mean, the amount of people that had just massive problems with the combat in the first game, like, is palpable. A lot of people are just never going to play the first game because, to put it bluntly, the combat it's rough. It's rough. So they did design KCD 2 to be able to be played without playing the first game. So anytime there's like important events or characters, they and you can see this in the 3 hours that I played. They have like the characters explain the situation, explain the person. So Yeah, they made it very clear that you do not need to play the first game to play the second.
Have they done enough to where if you bounced off that first one, that this one's going to keep you around?
I'm not going to lie to you. It's entirely dependent on why you bounced off the first one. This is still a giant medieval sandbox game. So if you bounced off the first one because it was too sandboxy for you, I mean, there's a lot of great mechanics in this one that I think you'll like a lot better, but it's still a giant medieval sandbox. They're saying it takes 60 to 80 hours to complete the main quest, and that there may be over hundreds of hours of additional content.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is shaping up to look like and be a magnum opus kind of situation for Warhorse.
Yeah. They moved this game up. So it was originally supposed to launch on the 11th, and now it's coming out the 4th, right? That was like a last month deal, I think.
That's right, 11 a.m. ET on the 4th.
How was it, by the way, Cohh, playing with devs watching? I've done that before, and I like not watching in chat. That's a different thing, but like you were communicating with them as you were playing their game. That had to be a little bit.
Here, I have done this multiple times.
Yeah.
Where I have played a game with the devs watching. And the thing is there are different types of watching. Sometimes they watch you specifically because they are looking for bugs, or they're looking to see if you'll do specific things. And those you feel like you're kind of being analyzed, and that can be a little awkward. Those guys, though, are insanely passionate about what they're making. And you could tell the entire time they were watching, they were not watching to see the game. They were watching because they were watching somebody experience their game. They mentioned multiple times in the show that it's the first time they'd actually watched someone play their game.
Right.
And it was very obvious very quickly that they were the type of devs that they weren't there to push a product. They weren't there to, like analyze the bugs and they were just enjoying the show. That came through, and it made the whole thing like zero stress.
PlayStation's starting to add some incentives.
More importantly, they have incentives coming because they're turning it off. Instead of using the Switch, they are using Honey, which is great.
Yeah.
That's much better.
Yeah.
Much better decision.
Yeah.
They're keeping the region lock on. So even if you don't need an account, they're still not selling. What?
They didn't say that in the
What's the
PlayStation
point?
blog.
From what I understood, the whole point of the region lock was because they couldn't get PSN in those countries. So if you're not going to need PSN, like, how weird. Maybe, okay, real talk. This just got announced. It may not be as easy as we're thinking to just turn on purchasing in all the companies. Like maybe they're going to do that, and did they talk about that at all in the press release?
I'm scanning through all the different paragraphs. Wayne June unfortunately passed away. The Darkest Dungeon Twitter tweeted this out 3 days ago. Unfortunately, he has passed away.
From what I heard, he was 70 years old.
Okay.
So he was an older gentleman, but I don't know if they've actually announced like the cause of death.
Cause of death, yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of curious myself. I'm pretty sure it was relatively unexpected, unfortunately, because Wayne I reached out to Wayne a while back for DD2 to do, like, because I have a bunch of voice notifications all on my channel for all sorts of stuff. And I reached out and I was like, would you make us a voice pack? And he was like, sure. And, we've done it with some other voiceover actors. And, of course, there's the talk about compensation and all that kind of stuff. And when it came to Wayne, I was like, how much do you want for this? And he was like, oh, you know what? It's totally fine. Like, I'll just process it all and do it all on my side and send it to you. Just next time I'm doing something, I'll let you know if you could like retweet a tweet of mine. Absolutely. Like, of course. Never messaged me back. So I wonder if the thing he was talking about, he ever got to like do and promote. Because that was, but he was like super cordial, but he did all of the processing on it himself. So he made it sound like the Darkest Dungeon voice for all the notifications. And he did all of that just on his own. He was such a good dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's very sad. Very sad.
We can talk a little bit about No Man's Sky, I suppose. They had a big update, the Worlds Part 2 update.
The game is freaking wonderful. I was kind of waffling on if I was going to play the Worlds 2 update, but I said, you know what? It's been a couple years. So let me just start one, killing some time before KCD 2. Well, that's now turned into like a 12 to 15 hour adventure. I now have like 7 different things I'm working on. We're working on getting a new Sentinel ship now. There are so many new things in this game since I played just a few years ago. On the 3rd or 4th planet I ran into, I almost got eaten by a sandworm, like an actual Shai Halud. That was fun. You can build your ships now. You don't just have to find them. You can actually find ships, break them into pieces, and then build new ships. There's fishing. There's an entire fishing thing. They've added a ton new QOL. Like I said, there's a whole Sentinel questline. There's a pirate questline I never did. There's a new expedition out. There is a huge amount of stuff in this game. I put up a tweet about this. It is arguably at this point like the best time to start playing this game, and that's because Worlds 2 was kind of a bookend on some of the tech that we're going to be seeing from Light No Fire, which is the game that they're kind of really working on soon. Even mentioned that one of the reasons we're seeing these updates in No Man's Sky is because they're making so much awesome tech for Light No Fire, their next game, and they want to bring it to the No Man's Sky audience while they're working on Light No Fire. That being said, I'm sure there will be content updates, but at this point right now, there is literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fun content to do. There are multiple main quest lines that will carry you through the whole game. All of the features are working well. Everything runs nicely. Like, it is a glorious time to start this game. This game is vast. And in many ways, it's very similar to Path of Exile, where it's been in development for so long that there are so many horizontal things to do that it's so easy to log in, play for an hour, and be completely overwhelmed by all the different mechanics and systems and things that you're seeing. So here is what I tell people. Every single time you are looking for something to do, where to go, what to do next, you go to your log and look at those first 3 quests. One of them will almost guaranteed have a specific thing for you to do to progress. And that will either take you to a new mechanic or a new system or a new area, which will then expose you to new things that you can either do or not do. But the short of it is, if you want to play this as as less of a sandbox and more of a actual game, look in those first 3 quests and you will always find something to do.
Cool.
Always.
Okay.
It is the place to go.
What is an expedition? What does that mean in the game? What does that mean?
So this is super cool. Expeditions were kind of Hello Games' answer to people that wanted a more story-focused experience in the game. They're basically like small, contained scenarios.
Oh.
And by finishing them, then you will get items and currency and stuff that you can spend on your main character. You can just jump in. They're 5 hours worth of content in some cases.
Okay.
And then when you're done, you get all sorts of rewards for your base character.
Is there still progression in terms of your tools and everything?
Oh, completely. There's not only progressions in terms of the tools, now you can have multiple tools. Tools have different things that they're good at, and you can now grow them all out and edit them. There's supercharged slots now. So you can get certain ones with supercharged slots, which will then connect and have different effects on the things that you add to them. Yeah, there's a lot.
Inventory? I saw something in the video they pitched where there was some inventory improvements. What
sorting!
have they done?
They added sorting! They
Oh,
actually put
shit.
inventory sorting in, which is fantastic. So now anytime you open the inventory, there's different buttons on the left, which will actually sort your inventory. There is a lot more QOL for that stuff.
That's good to hear. Yeah.
If you're not playing KCD2 or don't
Yeah.
plan to, I would say it's a great time to jump in for the next couple weeks. The viewership on it is fantastic because of the drops program, and also just the community. Dude, over the last half year, I have played some games where the chat has not been great. This game is the actual opposite. Streaming this game is a freaking joy because everyone that is watching this game, loves the devs, loves the situation, is interested in getting back in or playing it.
That's awesome.
It's literally a hurricane of positivity, and it's wonderful to be in the middle of as a streamer.
Sounds like a great time to jump in.
I'll just say it's the best time. It's the best time you could jump in. This game is one of the biggest success stories in gaming. The better it does, I feel like the better all of us do. It's just awesome.
Path of Exile 1, they've just straight up delayed 3.26 indefinitely to focus on Path of Exile 2. So the promise of hey, we're going to be able to work on both games, we're going to put out content for both games, has been
already falling apart.
Yeah.
What was their reason?
Transparent.
Yeah, when you say candid and transparent. Is he basically, and I haven't seen this video yet, is he basically saying hey, we realized that we're just not giving you what we said and we're sorry?
Now, when we announced PoE 2, we promised that we would continue to create PoE 1 expansions, but it's certainly been a lot harder to deliver on it than what we expected. How could we think about making a PoE 1 expansion when we still have hundreds of thousands of people who are having bad experiences in PoE 2? And it's hard to even think about what PoE 1 needs when PoE 2 has really obvious problems that need fixing. Now, I'm really sorry for how this went down. Honestly, I should have predicted the fact that taking the PoE 1 team off PoE 1 would lead to this outcome. Now, we still have a lot to learn about how to run 2 games simultaneously. We were overconfident. You guys do deserve better than this, and we will get 326 out as fast as we can.
I gotta admit, I'm surprised that they even considered turning on the dual release thing before PoE 2 is in 1.0.
When PoE 2 shipped and after the delay, they kind of had a feeling that this was going to be the case. And they waited till kind of almost the last minute, right before people were expecting 3.26 to come out here in February, to be like, yeah, we're gonna halt PoE 1.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Especially, I mean, there's a lot of people that have played PoE 2 and decided they like PoE 1 more. So then to have the company that swore to you your game would not be affected immediately get affected, you know, that's a valid reason to be upset. The entire company is built on PoE 1. So if they were to just jump the PoE 2, especially considering now there's more and more people coming out saying they prefer the first one, like they would be in many ways cannibalizing their audience in a huge way. They'd also be getting a huge amount of people extremely angry. And also, PoE is not a normal product. It's a living product, and it's still alive. So I don't think they want to kill it, because that's a giant, I mean, that's not only hundreds of people's jobs, to put it bluntly, but it's also a giant revenue stream for them. So I think in their mind, they see PoE 2 more of as an additional revenue stream than a conversion of one to another. They're also wildly different games. If you haven't played both, you probably don't know this, but PoE 1 and PoE 2 play totally differently. So PoE 2 is much slower, more methodical. It's as a lot of people say, it's harder, especially at the beginning. PoE 1's a different beast. It's a night and day experience. Much more fast, much more Diablo style, killing hordes of enemies. The only real hard stuff you're gonna fight is bosses, and even they aren't very hard. So it's a very different flavor. They should have told everyone, we're parking PoE 1, we're making PoE 2, and then we're starting the parallel when PoE 2 1.0 comes out. Yeah, it sucks. You're not going to get some PoE 1 content for a while, but you are going to get this awesome second game. And then once it's out, you're going to start getting new stuff again. No one's really done what they're doing before, especially with a team of their size. They bit off a lot with this.